It is my privilege and joy that we can continue our study about the family. And today we have the subtitle, Time of Loss. When God created humanity, He did not intend that they should ever experience something like loss. When He brought Adam and Eve together to experience companionship and work for Him, He never intended that their union should ever be interrupted or come to an end. But the humans decided to unplug themselves from God, and so marriage and relationships changed their purpose. The source now became Lucifer and humans. People marry still until today, but their relationships are not the pleasure. They have very often physical violence, adultery, any abuse, and finally death. Through the change of identity, the needs became the purpose. And it changed from to live with each other or to live together. Now they live from each other. This is how loss entered the world. And this is how loss determines our life. To understand what means loss, we need to understand the human being, how it was created. God created us out of two elements: the dust of the earth that became our body, and the breath of life that became our spirit. And the spirit and the body together are the soul, in which the spirit lives and acts as the ruling agent, and the body is the agent that listens to command and fulfills them. So in order that both should function, they have needs. And those needs need to be fulfilled. And those needs need to be fulfilled according to the way God has created us. And God gave us, for the fulfilling of our needs, only two criteria for decisions, and that was loss and gain. In 2007, I observed that all my patients, no matter what history they told me, had the same root, the same word as a root, and that was the word of loss. There is never a problem humans experience, and even animals, that is not loss. So loss is not something that is in life as an addition. It is at the core, it is at the root of all our thoughts. So let us see how God created us to work in the conscious and the subconscious. The subconscious is the heart, and there we have actions we must understand. So in the conscious we have the will, and in the will we must perceive our needs. These are the physical needs, the green one: hunger, thirst, sweating or freezing. And then we have the spiritual needs: harmony, justice, liberty, truth, wisdom, and security, just to take a few of them. Every human must be conscious in order to take a decision how to satisfy the need. But the decision is done subconsciously. And since we have in the body just the 2 plus and the minus and the 0 line, and the spirit must make an electrical impulse, he has only 2 criteria, and that is loss and gain for anything that he experiences. No matter what we experience with our 5 senses, we have by no choice. That's how we were made to function. We have to bring them down if that what we experience is a gain or is a loss. If it is 0, that is indifferent, it doesn't matter. So basically we have 2 criteria for anything we experience. And we must experience things because we live in an environment. And we must experience loud music or evil words or even violence or whatever comes to us. It does not matter. I must evaluate it in my heart. And in my heart, I have only these two criteria for evaluation. Is it gain or is it loss? And then God gave us two decisions, yes and no. And He said, you will say yes to gain and you must say no to loss. That's how God gave us a direction, so that we will never go backwards, but always forwards. So if He would have given us the capacity to say yes to loss, then nothing would make sense. That means I'm thirsty, but I could say, okay, doesn't matter if I drink or not, then I would die. But so I know, if I have thirst and I continue in this state, I'm going to lose. I have to avoid loss, then I'm going to drink fresh water because I cannot lose. We would have never had an own orientation if there would be not these two decisions, yes or no. But God made it very clear. You can never go backwards. You can never say yes. You can never accept loss if it's your personal loss, because you must avoid loss. So there is no way that we ever can say yes to loss. The only way to be deceived is to exchange the loss, to say, loss is a gain and gain is a loss. Then you say yes to the one, then you say yes. If you sell loss as a gain, then you will say yes to loss. And if you sell gain as a loss, then people will say no to the gain. So that's how the devil deceives today humanity. When God invites them for a new life, He says that new life is loss. You are not going to do anymore what you want, which is a lie, of course. So don't take that because it's a loss. And then people won't take it because they can only take what is a gain. You can never take what is a loss. So God gave us the needs, and the fulfilling of our needs is a gain. To fulfill harmony, justice, liberty, it's a gain. The question is just, how do we do it? But before I answer that question, let us look how Jesus describes the heart. When I first realized this mechanism in the heart of man, and I saw it in every man identical, and if you would look to you will see it's the same. And I made this public since 2008, and no one could ever contradict me that anything in a human life is just gain and loss. Everything is just yes and no. There is no other way to take any decision or to evaluate any of our experiences except with these two criteria. And when I saw it the first time, I said, this cannot be my discovery. This cannot be something that God didn't reveal to us just now. If this is the health of the body, if from here everything starts, then God must make it known. And He did. The one that created us came to earth as a man, and He described us. In His Sermon on the Mount, He gives a clear explanation of this mechanism in just in 3 Bible verses. Let's read from Matthew 6:19-21. Lay not up for yourself treasures upon earth, where moth and rust does corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourself treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust does corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Very clear, isn't it? The heart needs one thing. It needs a treasure. And the treasure has only one condition. It must be eternal. That is, it must be of a kind that no one can destroy it. Because in the moment you lose your treasure, your life is lost. That's how people get sick. When we lose that to which our life is attached, it doesn't matter if it's spouse, if it's child, if it's mother or father, if it's pet, or if it's your own body or your own life. It doesn't matter. It will destroy you. Because every one of my patients who are sick have experienced personal loss, have experienced the loss of a treasure. And the higher they value the treasure, the greater is their suffering. Because that's how we live. We live from the treasure. And if someone can take it away, we must die. We must suffer. We must be destroyed. That's why Jesus says, lay up for yourself treasure. We must gain. We must go to gain, but just for an eternal gain. That's so fantastic. If you work for God, you do not work for a perishable treasure. Whatever happens, your treasure is safe. So your heart is right. You are in no danger. Because God, through his servant Solomon, wrote in Proverbs chapter 4, the most deep insight verses from verse 20. My son, attend to my words. Incline thine ear unto my sayings. Let them not depart from thine eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine heart. For they are life unto those that find it, and health to all their body. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. So, life is a treasure. If life is bound to an eternal treasure, life is eternal. But if life is bound to a perishable treasure, doesn't matter which one, then life will end together with the loss of the treasure. So when we once understand this one thing, there are only two criteria and only one condition for the treasure. He must be eternal. Then everything we would experience in this world, like Christ, we would have no personal loss. We would stay above it. But we must consider what is the evaluation mechanism of how to reach the gain and how to avoid loss. Jesus explains it as well. He says here in verse 22 in Matthew 6, continuing the description of the heart, he says, the light of the body is the eye. And we know that the body cannot see. We know that the body has no light, but we know what Jesus means. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. So if the eye is single, is healthy, everything will be light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. So the decisive element in the heart is the eye. That is the evaluation system. And the evil eye says to receive is gain. And the good eye says to give is gain. If receiving is gain, not receiving, or receiving too little, or something is taken away from me, then that is loss. And if giving is gain, then not giving or keeping is loss. Already now you see that the two eyes are markedly different. In the one that is in the good eye, you have control. You give and not give. You have yes and you have no. But in the evil eye, you have no control. It's others who give you and then you're happy. And you're miserable when others don't give you what you need. But especially you get more miserable when others take away that what you think is yours. It doesn't matter if you think it's your body, if it's your house, if it's your car, if it's your child, whatever it is. When you think it is yours and it's taken away, you become very miserable. So in the evil eye, there is total loss of control. Well, the positive won't destroy us, but when we cannot say no to loss, while we were made to have to say no to loss, there's no choice for that, we will destroy ourselves. So the evil eye, that's why we need to keep the words, that's the law, in front of the eye so that we understand what it means. So every loss that we consider personal will, if it's great loss, it will destroy us faster. And if it's slow loss, little loss, it might not have so much impact on our spirit and so not much impact on the body, who is governed by the yes and the no. So all that makes humans problematic is that they consider the loss personal. Now, what is the I itself? The I itself is identity. It is who am I? And if I am who I am, then out of selfishness and pride, I could understand what humans think they are. Because selfishness says, I have property or possession, and pride says, I can create. And so every action of the human being starts with giving in order to receive. But what is that identity that lies at that root? And that identity is that humans think they are a God. They think I'm a creator. I am God. That's why we think we give from ourselves. And then when we lose something, we consider it personal. And the higher the loss, the greater the problem. If it is the abuse of your body by violence or by sexual abuse, if it is the death of your child or the accident, whatever happens, you have no choice. If it's yours, you must perish. That is, you will destroy yourself. So this is a very, very deceitful way of how the evil was implanted in our hearts. You see, it is not need that someone does to you wrong personally. I say so. He does not need to do you something. You must experience something. You have no choice. Abuse, or someone kills your child, or your wife betrays you, whatever it is. No one touches you. But that event that you work through the evil eye will completely discompose you, will tore you to death without a choice. As long as that eye exists, there is no hope for humanity. That's why that eye must be crucified, as I speak again and again. And we must have the real identity. We must know who we are. I'm a creature of God. Then love would be my motivation. I would know I have no property. I would know I cannot create. My first action would be take, but I would never keep it for me, because everything in this universe was made according to this law that must give. No one can keep it. But if we choose to keep things, then we experience loss. But as one has the good eye and knows where the gain is, he will always go to give. Yes, he needs to take first, but in giving, he will have the gain and the accumulation of the treasure. And no one can take away what you have done. Here, anyone can take away. Here, where your actions decide, you're a free agent, controlling the gain, controlling the loss, having a yes and a no, and you are free. So here we must understand the real issue in life. So there are these two eyes, and we are born, unfortunately, with the evil eye. But let us see how these two eyes function. If I'm a creature, I have spiritual needs. My heart must fulfill the needs. And I have in my heart two actions, the taking and the giving. And through trust, I take that what I need from God. I love God to take. I'm totally dependent on Him. It's full dependency on God. But what I take, I cannot keep for me. The law never permits that I could keep anything, so I must give it to the others. And by giving it, I have the gain, because these are my decisions. I give it, but to whom I give, I am in full independency of them. So this is how God created us. This is how the heart functions. We are in full dependency to God and full independency to all of our environment, of the relationship we give to them. That's what we take from God. But now the evil heart says, I am God, evil eye, and so I give because I think I can give something from me. But now the law of death expects receiving, gain. And the more people gain, the happier they think they are. They don't see that gain is only in giving. So once again, we don't see the self-deception that we can never give anything from ourselves. It's impossible. Whatever we give, we took first, but we don't see the taking. We think we give from ourselves. But in reality, all humans are dependent on mother, father, spouse, child, friend, pet, and all the things they accumulate. That's their source. And without loss, without the difficulties we encounter in life, we would not see to whom our heart is attached. We would not see the evil eye in us. We would not experience it. We would unable. So God must, in His mercy, bring us in difficult situation. There must be father and mothers that are not good, and spouses who betray, or children who get lost or killed, or whatever it is, friends who deceive us, and pets who die. Because by that loss, we see that what we could not see otherwise, that our heart is attached to them. They are our treasure. And whatever treasure can be taken away from you, that is the discovery of in whom you trust. So without the difficult experiences in life, humans could not see the self-deception that they think they are God. It is impossible for us ever to realize our need, especially we go through difficult things. And God will one day prove that whatever difficulty one had to go through, if it was abuse, if it was death, or whatever it was, God only allowed it in order to discover, to uncover the deception of our own hearts. So here we must see the benefit when things go wrong, because it's by no choice that we evaluate them wrong. It's by no choice that we attach our hearts to the wrong treasure, because we are born with the evil eye. But if the evil eye is not seen, how can I ever go to the cross? How can I ever go to get rescued? That's why the experience of loss, which then makes physical disease, is a need for us to see that something in us is wrong by birth. And if God would not show it to us, none of us would ever be able to be saved. We would be born death and we would die death. And we would have no choice ever to be saved. But by God's grace, He brings in our life those things that are difficult. And through trials and difficulties, He uncovers to us the evil eye. We have no guilt that we have it, but without seeing it, we cannot destroy it. And I see it in my life more and more. There are so little things that make that evil eye to erupt, that I see it, and then my body reacts, and I understand, oh, this is a great, great problem. So I have a solution to solve it. Now let's see once again what are the 4 basic principles of identity. The first is, if I'm a God, I'm spiritually independent. If I'm a human, I'm spiritually dependent. If I'm a God, everything belongs to me. I have property. If I'm a creature, nothing belongs to me. If I'm a God, I do everything from me, out of me. If I'm a creature, I do nothing from me. If I am a God, then all that which is around me have to turn around me, because I am the source of power. But if I'm a creature, it's all about the Creator of God, and I turn around Him. Not anyone needs to turn around myself. So these are 4 principles that we will see that are decisive to understand in order to see our problem and run to the Savior to be free. So we lost a spouse. Oh, how many people are sick and suffer year after year and die in pain because they never could overcome the loss of a spouse, because they took the spouse as their own. They took it personally. It's their God. Loss of children. It's a terrible thing when a child is lost, or when it is abused and lost and killed. It's great, great evil. It will destroy everyone who has the wrong identity. The loss of parents, the loss of friends. Ellen White says in Ministry of Healing, God allows that friends disappoint us. Why? So that we see the error of our own hearts, that we trusted humans. There's only one way to trust, and it's God. And then we trust God, then nothing can happen when the spouse is lost, or the children, or the parents, or friends. And lost through sexual abuse. I just recently had a patient who was sexually abused at the age of 17. Now she was 25, having depressions which were fluctuating. She says, I have thoughts of killing myself. Sometimes I can cope with what happened, and sometimes it's just unbearable. And so I says, I know why. When we experience something like that, then of course, or any kind of loss, then we must evaluate it. Who has the loss in the end? Whose personal loss is it? And if I'm a God, yes, then I have the loss. Then my body is mine, and anyone who touches it touches me and my property. then the loss is personal, and I must be, by default, the victim. Because only one who has a possession can be the victim. If I'm a car and I'm scratched, I have the scratch, but the owner has the loss. If I would know that I am a creature, then I would say, Lord, your body was abused, your body was done damage, but you saved it, and now I will serve you as I can with this body, but I won't consider it a personal loss, and I won't consider myself ever to be a victim. There are only two ways to think. You either are a victim when you experience negative things, or you are no victim when you experience negative things. So there are not two ways of evaluation. And if we would understand that only a God can be a victim, then we would come out fast and come to the truth to be saved. Now Jesus was and is our main example. And I'm so impressed and happy for the way that the disciple of Christ, Peter, he was close to Christ, writes it down. Even though it is against our evil nature, it is still the truth. And he takes the example of the servants. He says here in 1 Peter chapter 2 from verse 18, "Servants, be subject to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the froward. For this is thankworthy, if a man for conscience toward God endureth grief, suffering wrongfully." Is a sexual abuse a wrong? Yes. He suffers wrongfully. When we are beaten, when we are accused, it's unrighteous. It's wrongfully. We do not deserve this. But it says, "For what glory is it, if when ye be buffeted for your faults, ye shall take it patiently." So if we do something wrong and have a consequence from them, that's it. But if when you do well and suffer for it, you take it patiently, this is acceptable with God. For even hereunto were you called. For what were we called? To suffer the unrighteousness. When it happens to us. When Paul was beaten, he didn't take it personally. When Christ was abused, and he had all the abuses possible, he did this. "For even hereunto you called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that ye should follow his steps, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth." So was anything there for which Jesus could have been punished or would have been put to suffer? There was nothing that in Jesus' life ever was a need for suffering. But in order to save us, in order to destroy that evil eye, he had to go through this, showing us an example of overcoming the evil with good. Who, when he was reviled not again. When he suffered, he threatened not, but committed himself to him that judges righteously. Oh, if we would understand that, to commit ourselves to him that judges righteously. Why to him? Because we are his property. He's the one who will decide everything that was done unto me and everything that I did unto others. So, if I'm a creature, if I would follow the example of Christ, and Peter says here, it's an honor, it's grace when you endure the suffering, when you endure unrighteousness, when wrong things are done unto you, and you don't get angry about it. You don't see yourself as a victim in it. That's grace. And you commit everything to Him that judges righteously. Then our mind would be free. Whatever loss and unrighteousness we would have experienced. And now it comes, who His own self bare our sins in His own body, that we, being dead to sin, should live unto righteousness. You see, He came and took to the cross the lie about ourselves. He crucified the root of all evil so that we should be dead to sin. Dead to this way of thinking. When we accuse, when we see ourselves as victims, we have no choice, we sin. It is the reaction of our evil nature to that what happened. I have no choice for what I experience, but I must know how I evaluate that negative experience. And of course, without Christ, everyone will destroy himself. There is no way out. If we don't go to the cross, if we are not becoming dead to that evil eye, then we cannot experience the freedom of life. I'm a child of God. That's the truth about myself. Should live unto righteousness, by whose stripes ye were healed. You see, there is only one way to get away from all self-destruction. Whenever we experience loss, it's no one that destroys us. We destroy ourselves. That's an evil. That's a very bad evil. So we must just experience a wrong thing. And having that wrong identity, having that evil eye, it just brings us, not by an external force, just by our own way to think, to destroy us. And here Christ came to make us free through His wounds, to His stripes. Imagine if He would have never lived the stripes, and He would have never shown through the stripes that He is the Son of His Father, who committeth to Him the right judgment. We would never would able to become healed. But now we follow His example, because He came to show that when you're reviled, when you're threatened, when you are treated with abuse, when you are looked with hate, you still know who you are. And no one can touch you. No one can make you that in yourself you should destroy yourself. This is salvation. This is liberty. Through His stripes we were healed. May God help us that we should go to the cross every day whenever we experience loss and realize it's not our loss, it's His loss. And see it as a grace when we suffer and wrongfully, that we should not justify ourselves. We should not work against it, but leave it to the right judge. May God help us to experience this freedom, this liberty, that we would not destroy ourselves when others do us wrong. Amen.